Do you sense a subtle but profound shift occurring as you enter this new chapter? It's not the clamor of New Year's resolutions or the familiar pressure to loudly reinvent yourself. It's something quieter, deeper, a whispering intuition that the way forward is no longer about performance, but about profound, silent becoming. This is a call to move beyond the need to showcase your effort, to wait for external validation, or to chase the world's deafening noise. It's an invitation into a space where your energy consolidates, turns inward, and flows into depth. The truth is, 2026 will be defined by those who have mastered a particular kind of silence. Not a silence of fear or avoidance, but a strategic, potent silence. The kind that gathers every scattered fragment of your focus and channels it into real, unspoken action. The pioneering psychologist Carl Jung often illuminated that the most significant transformations begin not on a public stage, but behind a closed door. It is in that private sanctuary where you cease performing, proving, or seeking approval that you begin the essential work of rebuilding your core identity from the ground up. This exploration is not a manifesto for trying harder in the old, exhausting ways. It is a guide to gathering your energy, withdrawing from the noisy marketplace of opinions, compelling yourself to work in sacred silence, and allowing the results to speak for themselves in their own perfect timing. This is the path for those weary of racing at a pace set by others, who now feel a compelling urge to return to their own intrinsic rhythm. If you have recently felt a pull toward deeper, more focused, and more enduring work that does not require an audience or demand applause, then this journey resonates with you. This is your year. Are you ready to begin? If this speaks to you, make your presence known by typing "ready" in the comments below. Let's build a community of silent builders. Part 1. The alchemy of inward energy. When you stop announcing, you start accomplishing. There exists an uncomfortable truth most of us are reluctant to admit. We often derive more satisfaction from talking about our plans than from the laborious process of executing them. This isn't necessarily due to laziness, but to a psychological mechanism where sharing a goal provides a premature sense of accomplishment. This is often termed the social reality effect or a dopamine-driven reward for disclosure. When you articulate an intention to the world, your brain releases neurotransmitters that mimic the feeling of achievement, subtly depleting the motivational fuel required for the actual, often arduous, journey ahead. Carl Jung understood that any endeavor not rooted in and nourished by deep internal energy is fragile, likely to collapse under the weight of reality. He pointed out that what is not consciously integrated and nurtured from within remains an illusion, lacking the substance to survive genuine trials. Therefore, 2026 does not ask you to perform your effort for an audience. It demands that you retreat into a workshop of silence, where your energy can coalesce and build something substantial, free from the dissipating effects of premature acknowledgement. Recall a moment when you enthusiastically shared a plan to launch a business, write a novel, or transform your health, on social media or with friends. The initial rush of declaring it felt like progress. Yet, days later, the momentum mysteriously evaporated. The energy that should have been banked for the long haul was spent in the declaration. Your unconscious mind, having received a dose of social recognition, mistakenly registers partial completion, lowering the urgency for tangible action. You haven't taken the first step, but a part of you feels as though you've already traveled part of the path. Working in silence, then, is not about cultivating an aura of secrecy. It is an act of protection. You are shielding a fledgling flame from winds of opinion, comparison, and expectation before it is strong enough to withstand them. Consider the story of a designer who spent months conceptualizing a new collection. In a moment of excitement, he posted early sketches online. The immediate influx of likes and encouraging comments was exhilarating, yet it created a paradoxical emptiness. I felt like I'd already released the collection, he confessed, even though I'd only just begun. The external validation created a cognitive closure that severed his deep, creative connection to the work itself. Jung might suggest that creative and transformative energy must be sheltered within the temenos, the sacred inner space, until it reaches maturity. Premature exposure risks disconnecting you from the raw, formative essence of the endeavor. Not everyone needs a front-row seat to your process. In fact, in the early stages, you yourself may not fully understand what is gestating within you. Silence provides the incubation period necessary for fragile ideas to root deeply, away from the distorting noise of external feedback. Imagine you are nurturing a seed. If you constantly unearth it to check for growth, you ensure its demise. All meaningful growth requires a period of darkness, a season of hidden development. Your 2026 is that season. It is a year of returning to the quiet, of vigilantly guarding your focus so that the seed of your transformation can anchor itself deeply and develop at its own organic pace. This silent approach is not merely patience, it is maturity. It is the understanding that true value is built in the doing, not in the telling. Furthermore, it liberates you from the performance pressure that comes with an audience. When others are watching, your unconscious feels scrutinized. Jung emphasized that the soul's deepest movements require freedom, not just physical liberty, but liberation from the observing eyes of others. In silence, you grant yourself permission to experiment, to fail, to recalibrate, and to learn without a running commentary. You create a sanctuary for dialogue with your deepest self, not for explanation to the outside world. The day will come when you emerge with what you've built. You will then perceive the stark difference between two versions of yourself. The one who depended on the recognition that comes with talking about effort, and the one who discovered the formidable power of contained energy. The former is sustained by applause, the latter is powered by action. The former always feels like it is striving, the latter simply moves forward. 2026 belongs to the energy conservators. It belongs to those who safeguard their most important work in the inner sanctum. It belongs to those who comprehend that some processes can only blossom in darkness. You need not announce your evolution. Let the world eventually look at you and wonder, what have you been quietly doing to become so formidable? If this concept of silent building is resonating with you, show your support by hitting the like button. It helps this message reach others who are ready for this quiet revolution. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more insights on profound personal transformation. Before we delve deeper, I pose a question to you, a quiet prompt for your own 2026 journey. What in your life is currently yearning to be nurtured in silence? Is it an unspoken project, a habit you're tenderly building, or a new version of yourself that is sprouting but not yet ready for the light of day? If you feel called to, share that silent intention in the comments below. Sometimes, placing it in a supportive space can help clarify the path ahead. Your comment not only affirms your own journey, but might inspire someone else to honor their quiet work. Part 2. The liberation of the unseen self, shedding the outgrown persona. There are pivotal chapters in life when you feel a profound misalignment with the person others perceive you to be. This isn't about inauthenticity, it's a sign of growth. You have outgrown the psychological costume, or what Jung termed the persona, that once served a necessary social function. This persona, the mask you present to the world, becomes constrictive, a prison that inhibits the breath of your evolving spirit. Jung famously stated, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That becoming necessitates a courageous retreat from the stage into the wings of silence, where you can reconstruct yourself free from the script of others' expectations. The intriguing complexity is that this mask is upheld not only by society, but by your own psyche. You become habituated to the recognition and identity that the familiar persona provides, and thus your unconscious can compel you to keep performing it, even when it's outdated. When you consistently vocalize your journey of change, "I'm trying this, I'm pursuing that," you inadvertently reinforce the old identity. Each declaration ties you back to the historical version of you that people know and expect. Therefore, the work of 2026 isn't just labor, it is silent labor. It is how you exit the spotlight, step off the known stage, and return to the essence quietly burgeoning within, a essence only you have the right to sculpt. Consider Lisa, who was universally known as the perpetually bubbly, extroverted social hub. Internally, she craved solitude, slowness, and deep creative work. Every attempt to step back was met with concerned inquiries. "You're so quiet. Are you okay?" These well-intentioned questions acted as cues, pulling her back into her well-worn role. Only when she consciously stopped explaining, stopped seeking understanding, and gave herself permission to disappear from the performance. Did genuine change solidify? I needed to see who I was when no one was watching, she reflected. That silent interval provided the fertile void where her authentic self could finally emerge and be recognized. By working in silence, you revoke the external committee's voting rights on your identity. You cease explaining, stop broadcasting drafts of your becoming, and no longer await reactions. In this quiet sanctuary, the old persona's grip loosens. You are no longer obligated to be the eternally cheerful friend, the infallible expert, or the relentless go-getter if that's not your current truth. You grant yourself the freedom to become an unpredictable, unedited version, and this is often the most authentic incarnation of yourself. A powerful metaphor for this process is an actor in a dressing room after a final curtain call. The door is closed. The applause has faded. Alone, he begins to remove the stage makeup. In that silent, unobserved moment, he is no longer the character. He is simply himself, perhaps weary, perhaps thoughtful, gloriously imperfect. Many of us have forgotten the feel of that removal, having lived so long under the stage lights of societal expectation. Silence is your private dressing room. It is where you gently peel away the layers of expectation without fear of judgment, where you gaze into the mirror and meet not the role, but the soul behind it. You've likely experienced this. When you try to explain a deep internal shift to others, they often cannot grasp it. This isn't due to a lack of care, but because true transformation begins at a depth invisible to the outside eye. In attempting to articulate it, you risk molding your nascent change into a shape they can comprehend and approve of. You inadvertently begin changing for them, not for yourself, allowing the old persona to reseal its boundaries. Thus, silence is non-negotiable for identity reconstruction. You require a protected psychological space where your inner metamorphosis is not subject to external adjustment. Silence is the womb for your reborn self. Let 2026 be the year you stop telling the world you are changing. Instead, become the change in the quiet, and allow the world to witness the undeniable evidence in your being. When you stop narrating the process, you allow the unconscious, the architect of the self, to work unimpeded. By the time you re-engage, people won't need an explanation. They will sense the difference in your presence, in your calm, in your results. You will understand then that silence was not an absence, but the very substance that facilitated your rebirth. Is this journey of silent transformation challenging? Absolutely. But you don't have to navigate it alone. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Let's learn from each other's quiet revolutions. And if you're finding value here, please take a second to share this with someone who needs to hear this message. Part 3. The Architecture of a New Self, Silent Discipline and Microhabits. Once you begin the quiet work of shedding the outgrown persona, a critical insight emerges. Your new identity is not forged in the fire of grand, dramatic declarations, but in the gentle, consistent heat of tiny, repeated actions. This is the essence of true discipline, not the kind showcased for admiration, but the invisible, patient, daily practice that occurs in the sacred backstage of your life. Jung believed the unconscious integrates change not through forceful will, but through small, repetitive movements that gradually rewire the internal structures of the psyche. Therefore, 2026 does not ask for a single heroic leap. It requests the quiet consistency to repeat minuscule actions until they become as natural as breathing, until they are woven into the very fabric of who you are. Take the example of an aspiring author who dreamed of writing a transformative book but waited years for the perfect time. Progress only began when she committed to writing for just 20 minutes each morning, in total silence. No social media updates, no discussions about the process. The power, she noted, wasn't just in the writing. It was in the profound privacy of the act. It was something she did purely for herself, devoid of any performative aspect. Those daily, silent 20-minute sessions accumulated into chapters, and eventually, a completed manuscript. These are micro-habits, so humble they evade notice, yet so potent they can remodel a life. A beautiful analog is groundwater. It moves unseen, unheard, with no fanfare. Yet, over time, its persistent, silent flow carves vast caverns and shapes immutable stone formations. Your silent, daily habits operate with the same transformative power. You may not perceive the change day to day, but one day you will look back and see that these quiet repetitions have sculpted a version of you far more resilient and authentic than any version born from a burst of short-lived, noisy motivation. This principle echoes in the myth of the sun goddess Amaterasu. After a conflict, she retreated into a cave, plunging the world into darkness. The other gods could not coax her out with pleas or force. Instead, they began a celebration outside her cave, dancing, singing, and creating merriment. These small, persistent, joyful actions stirred her curiosity. She opened the door a crack, saw her own radiant reflection in a mirror they had placed, and was drawn out, restoring light to the world. The transformation was catalyzed not by a grand intervention, but by small, sustained actions. Silent discipline derives its strength from this internal accumulation, unseen by others. When you practice in silence, each micro-habit sends a potent signal to your unconscious. This is who I am now. Jung asserted that the unconscious responds to consistent behavior, not to promises. He famously implied that you are defined by what you do repeatedly, not by what you aspire to do. This undisturbed, quiet consistency allows new neural pathways and identity structures to form without the interference of external validation or skepticism. In this new year, consider each small habit as a single thread, woven together daily in silence. They become the tapestry of your new life. A morning glass of water, 5 minutes of mindful breathing, journaling 3 sentences of gratitude, reading 10 pages, practicing a skill for 15 minutes. Individually, they seem insignificant. Collectively, practiced in the quiet, they become the unshakable foundation of your future self. You require no applause for this discipline. The validation you might seek from others only creates dependency. What you need is the quiet certainty that comes from showing up for yourself, day after unseen day. This is what Jung considered change born of soul-level conviction. And one morning in 2026, you will awaken and realize the transformation is complete. You will not be able to pinpoint the exact moment it happened. You will simply know that through countless soft, silent steps, you have walked into a new existence. Others may not know how you did it, but they will feel the weight of your new presence. That is true power, the power of being reshaped not by words, but by actions performed in stillness. If you're committing to building your life through these quiet, powerful micro-habits, let us know in the comments what one small habit you're starting with. Your commitment might be the spark for someone else. And if this content is adding value to your journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it aggressively. Let's spread this countercultural message of quiet power. Part 4. The silent confrontation, facing the shadow that sabotages your progress. Yet, a crucial question remains. Why do we often struggle to maintain even the smallest, most reasonable habits? This inquiry bridges our understanding from silent discipline to a deeper, more challenging layer of the inner world, what Jung called the shadow. This is the repository of the parts of ourselves we have repressed, denied, or refused to acknowledge. Even as you commit to silent work in 2026, an invisible force, the shadow's sabotage, can pull you toward procrastination, self-doubt, and abandonment of your path, just as progress becomes visible. This force is not a mark of weakness. It is the unintegrated part of your psyche asserting itself. Jung suggested that the shadow is not inherently bad. It is simply unconscious. Because it is unseen, it exerts a powerful, often destructive, influence on your behavior. Shadow sabotage is the mechanism of unconscious self-protection that masquerades as self-destruction. Procrastination is rarely about laziness. It is often a fear of the failure, or even the success, that might come from truly trying. Self-doubt may stem not from a lack of capability, but from internalized criticisms or a deep-seated belief that you are not enough. The familiar discomfort of the known often feels safer than the uncertain promise of growth. When you work in absolute silence, with no external accountability, the ego's defenses lower, and the shadow's murmurs become audible. Silence not only fosters growth, but also illuminates the hidden resistances you once mistook for inherent traits. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." For instance, you sit down for your 20 minutes of writing, and an overwhelming urge to check your phone arises. This isn't merely distraction, it's the shadow activating resistance. Your psyche isn't afraid of the writing. It's apprehensive of the new, unknown identity that consistent writing might create, an identity it does not yet know how to manage. Neuroscience corroborates this as homeostatic resistance. The brain is wired for efficiency and perceives change as a threat to its established energy-saving patterns. Any new behavior triggers alerts in the form of boredom, anxiety, or sudden fatigue. Many misinterpret this initial resistance as a sign they are on the wrong path, when in reality, it is a universal sign of stepping beyond a familiar boundary. A viewer once shared her struggle to maintain a 6 a.m. exercise routine. She failed repeatedly until she stopped telling anyone about it. In the utter silence of the attempt, she began to hear the internal narrative clearly. You're not an athlete. This is pointless. Go back to sleep. By recognizing these thoughts as the shadow's fear, not as truth, she could acknowledge them without obeying them. The silent space became a training ground not just for her body, but for integrating this resistant part of herself. Confronting the shadow in silence is a gentle, firm process of observation and integration. When resistance arises, instead of battling it or collapsing to it, you silently inquire, what part of me is afraid here? What is this resistance protecting me from? This is not a loud, confrontational interrogation, but a quiet, curious inner dialogue. By bringing the shadow's fears into the light of your awareness, you drain them of their covert power. You acknowledge the fear of failure, the comfort of mediocrity, the anxiety of outgrowing old relationships. You name them, and in doing so, you begin to integrate them. This silent inner work is the most profound discipline of all. It ensures that the micro-habits you build are not superficial additions, but are integrated into a wholeness that includes your previously denied parts. Your discipline becomes resilient because it is honest. You are no longer at war with a hidden part of yourself. You are in partnership with a more complete self. This journey into silence is not a passive one. It is an active, courageous engagement with the deepest layers of your being. It's challenging, but it's how lasting change is forged. If you're ready to engage in this level of work, tell us in the comments with the word integrate. Let's acknowledge the courage this takes. Your engagement drives this channel. Please like, share, and comment to keep this conversation alive. Conclusion: the quiet emergence, letting your results resonate. As you move through 2026, practicing silent effort, shedding old personas, building through micro-habits, and integrating your shadow, you will approach a moment of quiet emergence. This is not a loud tada, but a natural, inevitable unfolding. The work, having been done in the fertile darkness, will begin to manifest in your reality. Opportunities will seem to align, not because the world has changed, but because your clarified energy and focus attract them. Your competence will speak through the quality of your work. Your peace will communicate through your calm presence. Your transformation will be evident in your unwavering gaze. You will understand that the silence was never empty. It was a crucible. It was the space where you ceased being a performer in someone else's narrative and became the author of your own. Jung's vision of individuation, becoming the integrated, whole person you are meant to be, finds its most fertile ground in these periods of intentional, productive silence. When the time is right, and you share what you've built, it will carry a different weight. It won't be a plea for validation. It will be an offering of substance. The results will speak with a resonance that no amount of self-promotion could ever achieve. People won't just see an outcome. They will sense the depth of the process behind it. 2026 beckons you into this sacred silence. It is a year to build your inner fortress, to nurture your essence, and to create from a place of profound integrity. The world is loud, but your power now lies in your quiet. Will you answer the call? If this vision for 2026 resonates with you, let this be your first silent action of commitment. Like this video to affirm your path. Subscribe to this channel for ongoing guidance in cultivating depth and purpose. Share it aggressively with your friends, family, and community, not as a boast, but as an invitation to a more meaningful way of living. And most importantly, declare your silent intention in the comments below. Use this space as your sacred dressing room, your silent workshop's bulletin board. Tell us one word that represents your quiet focus for the year ahead. You're ready. You're integrate. You're silent. These whispers are powerful. They connect us in a community of deep builders. Thank you for engaging with this work. Remember, the most powerful transformations are not announced. They are achieved in silence, and then they simply are. Go build your quiet masterpiece.